Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome London's Night Czar, Amy Lamé, and Acting Chief Executive London and Partners, Andrew Cooke. Please welcome back Patrick and Jason.
So the people who just walked out are going to be really upset when they realize the open bar doesn't open until we're done up here. So sorry about that. So we decided to finish up the evening talking about London, our host city. And to best do that, we thought we should have somebody who knows what he's talking about, our London-based correspondent Patrick. And I'm going to play the role of the stupid American tourist up here. So it should be good, and we hope you enjoy it. And we brought two people who really reflect two sides of London now, and both for quality of life and more, not to say you're more formal and stuffy, but the more formal and stuffy things as well. We think we've got a great panel. So I'm going to let Patrick kick it off, though.
So we wanted to start off with a very blunt question. Will Brexit be good or bad for London?
Well, nobody has a crystal ball. And look, you know, we have to be honest here. London did not vote to leave the European Union. We overwhelmingly voted to stay. But we have to deal and face the facts with where our country is going. And so we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. And I think it's really important that we carry our London spirit with us wherever we go, and that people realize that London is still open. We're open to ideas, to people, to innovation, to business, to tourists, to everyone and everything. And just because the idea of our borders may change, that doesn't change the mindset of Londoners. We have always been an extremely welcoming and open city, and will continue to be so.
And Andrew, there was an announcement last week about London linking up with Paris to form this kind of tourism and business joint venture. Was that kind of a cheeky, like, we're not like the rest of the country, we're going to do things our own way and keep that connection with Europe?
I think it's very much about collaboration with other cities post-referendum. So we're very keen to still collaborate in terms of trade and investment with those cities. And there's no bigger export from London than tourism. So it was very much a conscious decision to talk to Paris. We've developed a relationship with them over the years. They have suffered some of the terror attacks as we have. We talked to them after their attacks in terms of impact on them in terms of tourism and how they might recover and what we've seen in London. And the relationship developed in terms of, let's see if there's a partnership there in terms of attracting long-haul tourists. And we share many of the same attributes. We both have fantastic culture, we have fantastic history and heritage, we have fantastic food. So it's a natural combination, Paris and London for long-haul markets. So we're looking to target US market initially.
And aside from that, have you had to do any kind of special marketing or talking about London as an open destination since the referendum? Either of you could answer this question, I guess.
So, well, tourists have kept coming. You know, the devaluation of sterling has helped in that. So, you know, numbers have held up and spend has increased significantly. So, luxury spend up at about 30% higher last summer. But it has really been pushing out this message, as Amy's saying, London is open. So that's the campaign that we developed, that the mayor adopted. A very simple campaign, simple message, which everybody could then take part in. And it's worked really well. So, you know, it's had a reach of 356 million, 175,000 tweets, and it resonates very well. So when we've had, you know, great people supporting us with that campaign, a lot of our partners, but sports stars, West End Theatre, you know, it's worked well.
Yeah. I think it's really important to remember as well that just kind of highlighting what Andrew said about the importance of having these positive relationships and keeping them going between, say, London and Paris. I mean, I just came back from Berlin doing a roundtable discussion there about the nighttime economy and culture, and what similarities we share with Berlin, what they do well, what we can learn from Berlin, the information that we can share with them about what we're doing so well here. And there was a real feeling in the room that, you know, it was so important for us to carry on that exchange. So I think that, you know, looking forward to Brexit, that, you know, these are the city-to-city conversations are very important. And there's no denying it. London is the leading world city in Europe, and I expect that we will carry on being so.
The other kind of, not flip side to Brexit, but the other kind of key factor in tourism right now is concerns about unrest and violent acts. London, unfortunately, has had the 7/7 a few years ago, and then also last week. Can you talk a bit about resilience of the city, thoughts about how that will impact inbound travel?
Yeah, so I suppose London has, to some extent, I suppose, a history in terms of violent acts. We've dealt with them in the past. We know how to deal with them. So 7/7 was really tragic, the day after winning the Olympics, to have that attack. And we did see a dip in tourism. It took about 3 months for that to recover. The impact of last week's, a couple of weeks ago, has been less severe in terms of downturn. And we have a well-rehearsed way of dealing with this. There's a tourism emergency response group which met the day after the attacks in terms of working out how we would respond. We turned off marketing activity. We worked very closely with Visit Britain in that regard. So out of respect for those people who were injured and died, most of whom were tourists, actually. So the mayor has responded fantastically, having the vigil the day after, where Londoners and tourists gathered to commemorate those events. So we saw a dip of about 10% in terms of web traffic on our site, visitlondon.com, over the week, but that was largely because we weren't doing any marketing activity. That's beginning to pick up. All of the attractions opened within 24 hours, and bookings don't seem to have been affected. So, and I think Londoners just get on with their...
Yes, I think, you know, that phrase that you see on so many mugs and T-shirts, you know, that keep calm and carry on. I think that, you know, obviously our thoughts are with people who were affected and people who died. But I think the mayor's done a fantastic job in making sure that everyone in London, tourists included, know that, you know, London carries on because we have our strong beliefs in freedom of expression, freedom of movement. We're a country that does not have an overly armed police force. That's something we're really proud of. We have a history of being policed by consent. And although there are more police officers, armed police officers now on the streets following the Westminster tragedy, I think it's important to realize that safety is the #1 concern. And that, you know, that is, we want London to be safe for tourists, people visiting us, and people that are living here.
And one big change in London recently has been the advent of the night tube, which I know you've been a big advocate of. Could you talk about how that's going to change the nighttime economy in allowing the tubes to run 24 hours on a Friday and Saturday night?
Yes, well, it's been really exciting in London being able to get out and about. Show of hands, does anybody use the night tube at all? Yes? Marvelous, brilliant. You'll know that if you've taken the night tube, that it's actually so much more fun than taking it during the day. People are so happy. People are thrilled. They're smug as well. Like, I'm getting home just for, you know, on my Oyster card. It's amazing. And I think that it's really transformed London in such a short space of time. You know, the number of journeys has been much, much higher than was originally anticipated. And the crime figures have been much, much lower than what was anticipated. So this shows us that there's a huge appetite out there for people to take advantage of the night tube. It opens up so many possibilities, not just in central London, but across all zones of London. And I think for London looking forward to being a 24-hour city, this gives us a taste of what things can be like and what things will be like. We're on an upward growth model here, and I think that that's terribly exciting for London.
And London's famous for its attractions like Buckingham Palace and Tower Bridge and stuff, but the nightlife and theatre and comedy, that's always been big, and this will probably help that, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to develop more of a 24-hour offering when it comes to those kinds of things, nightclubs and pubs and clubs and stuff. But also for people that live in London, I often talk about the difference between nightlife and life at night. And creating a life at night is something that we have huge potential for, so that we can, sort of expand our vision of what we're doing in the dark. And that is what I'm tasked with.
Last year at our Skift Forum event, we had the Brazilian Minister of Tourism, and he said that the first thing they did when they got the World Cup and the Olympics was they tried to talk to people in London to figure out what they did right. Can you talk a bit about the tourism legacy of the Olympics here? Was it 5 years ago, I think?
Yeah, 2012. It was a fantastic showcase for the city, but I suppose unlike other cities, it wasn't about putting London on the tourist map. We were already having high levels of tourism. The main reason we bid for and won the Games was about regeneration. It was about regenerating East London and developing a new part of the city. But it allowed us to showcase London in a whole new way and change perceptions of London. So from Danny Boyle's amazing opening ceremony, which set the tone, I think, for the whole of the Olympics in terms of demonstrating how the UK had evolved from agricultural culture to industrial revolution to tech revolution, with Tim Berners-Lee demonstrating the internet. I mean, it was amazing. The Queen, Mr. Bean. It showed our sense of humour. And the games makers, the ambassadors who gave such a warm welcome to visitors really demonstrate actually that, hopefully we're not too stuffy, we're not we are very welcoming and really, I think that shone through. And actually, commuters actually talking to each other on the train. It was a whole different environment.
Talking on the tube?
Talking on the tube? Yeah. So we built on that in terms of we ran the non-accredited media centre, pushing out lots of images of London and new London, the emerging tech scene, the new developments in London, and capitalised on that in terms of then our marketing campaigns, which was all about turning armchair viewers into visitors. And we've had some great campaigns over the last few years. London's official guest of honour, bringing a lucky American school teacher to London for money can't buy experiences. So visiting the Science Museum with Stephen Hawking, touring the Opera House with Darcy Bussell. So filming those moments, which really went viral. So so we've been very lucky. So we've had record levels of tourism, year-on-year growth since 2010. So 20% growth between 2010 and 2015. 31 million visitors last year. So very positive.
Now, one of the things that Skift's written a lot about recently is over-tourism and the kind of the interaction between tourists and locals. That's maybe not a huge problem in London at the moment, but with it being such an important city for tourism, and it's a huge city in general, how are you looking at managing that kind of balance between promoting it as a city for tourists and also making sure it's good for locals?
So we're just developing a new tourism strategy for the city, actually, which will forecast about potentially another 10 million additional visitors by 2025. So it's important that we manage that. So we're looking at how we manage that in terms of good growth. So part of our strategy is partly is about dispersal, it's about showcasing the whole of London, it's encouraging more people to visit more of London, to reduce congestion in the central area. It's about spreading the load both at nighttime and daytime. It's about encouraging more visitors in off-peak moments. It's about demonstrating to Londoners the benefits of tourism as well. So the fact that it's a major employer, 700,000 people employed in the city based around tourism, the fact that Londoners benefit from this fantastic culture, which a lot of it wouldn't necessarily exist without the tourism economy. West End shows, we wouldn't have the West End Theatre if 50% of those visitors weren't international visitors. So there's a real opportunity there, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that 4 out of 5 visitors come to London for our cultural offering. And a lot of that cultural offering takes place in the evening. And you know, we've got a huge area of growth here. The nighttime economy and culture is worth £26 billion to London. And it's projected to grow to over 28 billion in the next 15 years. And so I'm very keen to spread the word that London is open at night, and that we're looking at increasing our offering round the clock. Now that we've got the night tube, we've got the infrastructure, we're shining a light on our culture, we're shining a light at night on our music industry, which is hugely valuable to us. So
you also think it's important to spread it out as well, not just in the central areas, it's
absolutely.
the outer boroughs, which maybe haven't had so much tourism in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I personally, I live in an area in London, in central London, that is very popular with tourists. I spend most of my spare time helping tourists find things around London, pointing out which direction they're headed on the map and things like that. And as a Londoner, it makes me feel really proud that I'm able to do that and to meet people from all over the world here. But it shouldn't just belong to Zone 1. You know, in my work as Night Czar, I've been all over London. You know, we have so many different areas that are undiscovered. I went to a place in Waltham Forest the other week that, honestly, if you had visited this place, if it were in Berlin, you'd be like, oh, that's so cool. You'll never believe. I went to an industrial estate and I saw the most amazing exhibit of neon art and a woman who was making her own gin from berries she found in a local forest. You'd be like, this is the coolest place on earth. It's here in London, you know? We really need to shine a light on these places that are off the beaten track. You know, there's so much to discover here. That's why people keep coming back to London anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Andrew was telling me some really interesting figures the other day about just how many people, you know, visit London and then come back to London and keep coming back to London.
So 75% of visitors are repeats. Typically, people will come back 5 times in a decade.
Both international and domestic?
Both international and domestic, yeah. So our strategy is to catch people young, because once we've caught them, they will come time and time again.
Yeah, see, we're the city that keeps on giving, aren't we?
I think that's probably...
I've got a question.
I just have a question. What was the decision process that led to you having such a cool title? What were the other names on the whiteboard?
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to steal a line from the mayor, Sadiq, who I'm sure wouldn't mind me repeating this, but he says, Amy, we were going to call you the Nightmare, but we had a nightmare in City Hall for 8 years. So we settled on Night Czar. So yeah, I'm happy to go with whatever the mayor decides is fine by me.
I think with that, we'll end the questions and just say that from your statistics, 3/4 of us will be back here whether we want to or not. So,
You're very welcome.
So, yeah.
You're all very welcome.
So I think our CEO is going to join the stage and we'll go ahead and move off this way. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.